Welcome back to The Explainer, everyone. Today, we're pulling back the curtain on what it truly takes to land and actually succeed in a premier international leadership role within the United Nations system. Specifically, we're decoding the strategic blueprint for the Chief of the Staff Employment and Administration section over at the International Civil Aviation Organization, or ICAO for short.
Okay, let's dive right into this. What does it actually take to carry the weight of an entire international workforce on your shoulders? And listen, this isn't some hypothetical business school scenario. We are talking about massive, real-world stakes here. This P5 vacancy, which is a highly senior professional grade at ICAO's headquarters up in Montreal, requires someone to manage the exact mechanisms that guarantee the daily livelihoods, the health, and the eventual retirements of thousands of people.
Now, to really get this role, we kind of have to bust a major myth. There's this typical expectation of a senior HR position, right? You picture someone sitting in a boardroom, offering strategic advice, designing abstract policies, and just sort of maintaining a comfortable altitude above the fray. But the reality of this chief position, it is intense, direct, day-to-day operational accountability. You aren't just advising on policy from afar. You are delivering on-the-ground services that directly impact staff well-being around the clock.
So here is our roadmap for today. We're going to break this down systematically. First, the ICAO operational mandate. Second, leading 5 distinct units. Third, the hard experience thresholds. Fourth, preparing for the interview. And finally, mastering core UN competencies.
All right, kicking things off with Section 1, the ICAO operational mandate. Understanding ICAO's mandate is definitely not just some technical HR checkbox. Because it's a specialized agency of the UN, ICAO has its own totally unique governance structures and relationships with major bodies, like the International Civil Service Commission. A successful chief has to align every single HR operation with incredibly rigid compliance and audit readiness. Literally every decision you make is simultaneously a strict governance matter and a deeply personal staff well-being matter. Moving right along to Section 2, leading 5 distinct units.
And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer breadth of direct accountability we're talking about. You are coordinating 5 completely distinct operational service lines at the exact same time: staff administration, benefits, social security and pension, the medical clinic, and protocol. It's wild. Each of those units has its own complex regulatory framework and its own set of external counterparts.
It is absolutely vital that we ground all of this dry HR terminology in actual human stakes, because these 5 units touch nearly every single stage of a staff member's relationship with the organization, from the moment their initial contract is signed all the way through their medical care, their daily protocol accreditations, and eventually their retirement and pension. If a process breaks down here, it's not just a red cell on a spreadsheet. It means real, tangible consequences for a family's livelihood.
Okay, let's get into Section 3, the hard experience thresholds, the armor you need before you even step into the room.
10. That is the first hard number. An applicant absolutely must possess a minimum of 10 years of progressively responsible human resources management experience. And really notice that word progressively, because evaluators are specifically looking for a logical, convincing climb in responsibility over that decade.
5. Out of those 10 years, at least 5 must be spent specifically operating within the United Nations Common System, the public sector, government, or a similar international organization. Basically, you have to prove that you have serious credibility navigating these massive, heavily regulated frameworks. And another 5. You need at least 5 years of direct, verifiable experience actually supervising HR staff, managing complex contract administration, and processing intricate entitlements and benefits. Vague, high-level oversight won't cut it here. They want to see real, hands-on management. Now, beyond those hard numbers, there are a few essential profile additions that really separate the shortlisted candidates from the rest of a highly competitive pool. You'll need an advanced university degree, UN Level 3 proficiency in English, and a proven ability to lead effectively through fast-changing, innovative reforms. Interestingly, a formal project management certification is listed as highly desirable, which makes sense, right? Delivering across 5 different operational units requires absolute delivery discipline. Which brings us to Section 4. Preparing for the interview, the crucible.
So the crucial point here is that you have to adopt what we can call the anti-abstract frame. UN evaluation panels are basically trained ninjas at spotting fluff. If a candidate simply claims they, oversaw HR, the panel will just dismiss it. They want hard evidence. They want quantification. How many staff were served? By what exact metric did processing times improve? How many audit recommendations did you personally close out?
Let's look at a quick comparison. A weak candidate might say they were simply involved in a project, but proximity to a project does not equal responsibility, and trust me, evaluators know this. A strong candidate, on the other hand, clearly outlines the specific situation, the exact actions they personally took, and the verified, quantified outcomes of those actions. They'll even candidly acknowledge challenges and attribute their success to specific, smart operational choices.
This is the anti-abstract rule, plain and simple. Only hard evidence, quantified outcomes, and verifiable actions matter. If you want to survive an ICAO panel, you have to build a personal repository of fully worked out examples. We're talking 2 or 3 highly detailed stories for every single job requirement, proving beyond a shadow of a doubt that you drove real-world measurable change.
Finally, we hit Section 5, Mastering Core UN Competencies.
Everything rests on this foundation right here. Under ICAO regulations, an international civil servant must uphold the absolute highest standards of efficiency, competence, and integrity. This actually directly mirrors Article 101 of the United Nations Charter. So this isn't just nice-to-have corporate jargon to put on a poster. It is the absolute baseline standard of conduct, and it's tested heavily through reference checks and continuous daily scrutiny.
Then there are 6 distinct competencies explicitly required for this vacancy: professionalism, accountability, communication, managing performance, leadership, and judgment. Now, this is a notably broader evaluation set than you'll find in most typical job postings, but it perfectly reflects the dual nature of this job. You have to be an operational machine and a strategic visionary at the exact same time. Out of those 6, managing performance really carries distinctive weight. And why is that? Well, because you're directly supervising 5 distinct operational units. You have to constantly monitor precise milestones, appraise performance fairly, and delegate responsibility without ever losing your grip on total compliance with organizational rules. It's a massive juggling act.
Now, what's really interesting about this is how ICAO actually views leadership. Institutional commitments to gender equality, specifically Sustainable Development Goal 5, and modeling the 2013 Standards of Conduct, these are not just procedural footnotes. They are substantive leadership dimensions. Ensuring the equal participation of women and men across the section's work is a hardcore requirement of your capability as a leader.
So this really brings our entire deconstruction full circle. To be the chief of CA at ICAO is to pass the ultimate test. You have to simultaneously direct daily, in-the-weeds operations across medical, pension, and benefit lines, while also stepping into high-stakes interagency meetings to provide high-level policy guidance. It is an absolutely epic scope of responsibility.
We'll wrap up the explainer with this thought. Take a second and reflect on your own professional journey. If you were sitting before that ICAO evaluation panel today, staring down their strict anti-abstracts rule, could your own career narrative stand up to that massive evidentiary weight?